Okay, so my name is Melissa Doherty Anderson, and I'm an attorney in Golden, Colorado, and this is my podcast, Peace of Mind. And today I have Tim Gehret on with me, and he is a lawyer as well, but we know each other from way back in the day. We used to be reporters together in our undergraduate at University of Florida. So thanks for joining me today, Tim.
Yeah, it's good to reconnect after all this time.
I know it's been forever, and tell the viewers a little bit about how we met. Do you remember when we first met?
Um, I mean, I know it was at. I mean, I know it was at Florida, and
Yep. Classic
oh yeah, I
89.
totally remember. It was in Classic '89. We were like volunteering at one of the radio stations on campus
It
as
was
part
like
of
this
our.
PBS affiliate, super low budget, always
Yeah,
played classical music in the background. And they
yeah.
would make us rush out to all these breaking news stories in this janky little van.
With our little recorder, our tape recorder.
We did, and we had to splice everything. That's how long ago this was. We'd have these the tape like reels, and we would have to
Yeah.
take razor blades and splice them, and then put tape on. Can you?
Oh my God. I remember when we first got so there were two radio stations. One was a commercial one, which is WRUF, and then the other one was the Classic 89. And I remember WRUF we finally got this digital tape recorder, or not tape, recorder. And I remember it was like so fancy because you could actually record into it um, without like a tape or anything like that. There was like a disc or something that you slipped in there. That's so weird. And now like we're doing things on our phones, and I mean, there were
Zoom.
no smartphones.
Yeah. There were no smartphones back in the day. We didn't even have flip phones back then. We were running around to all these places and calling from payphones, and oh my gosh. And then we felt
Yeah.
so fancy when we got to move up in the world to the real, radio station and TV station. And
Oh
and so
yeah.
Tim, you were a reporter coming out of school. I mean, I haven't talked to you in forever, so I am excited that you're here. I wanted to catch up with you. And so you
Yeah.
were a reporter for forever.
Yeah.
And then
So
what made you decide that you wanted to go to law school?
so I had moved to Charleston, South Carolina. It was I'd worked up in markets and gone the traditional route where you work a couple years, moved to a higher market, and done that in local news, and just realized that my career, I'd seen other people that I had worked with, their careers had kind of taken off and done some really amazing things. And I found myself in Charleston, South Carolina, which I loved, but it was not a super big market. And TV stations everywhere were kind of going through a weird situation where they were cutting staff across the board, and social media was taking off, and just the industry itself had changed from what I remember starting out doing. And I'd always wanted to go to law school, but it was always a second choice because that's what TV and broadcasting was all I ever wanted to do. And then
Yeah. I remember you and I always had to go on the beat too. Like we would always have
yeah,
to go on the legal beat. If they were sending anyone to
yeah,
courthouse, it was me and you. We were
yeah,
always going to the
right.
courthouse, trying to make sense of whatever was going on with all with all the legal jargon.
Yeah.
So do you think that was a motivating factor to
Oh yeah,
get
for
you to go
sure.
to law
So
school?
so I got laid off actually in Charleston, and I was like, okay, I'm in like market 100, and I'm getting laid off. And so I was like, I think it's probably time to consider a career change. And I'd met somebody, was in a relationship, and was like, not rather than move to another market and have that flexibility, I was there. And so I said, what are my options? And so grad school was definitely in the cards, but I just didn't know whether it was like go get my master's or go to law school. And so I took the LSAT and got in, and criminal defense was definitely where I was going because that's what I loved covering as a reporter.
Right. And which is funny because that's where I started too. I loved
Yep.
crim law. I don't know about you, but I aced crim law. I
Oh yeah.
Andrewed it. I was like, tick, I know this because we had to figure it out from the ground up, and we would have to type these stories as fast as we could and try to make sense of it all. And
Yep.
so we already had a pretty good background going into law school,
Yeah.
I think.
And you don't cover civil cases or probate cases or anything like that when you're a reporter. Those aren't sexy. So, the
Yeah.
criminal defense, like Casey Anthony, those types of stories, that was actually happening while I was in law school. And I remember I was clerking for a judge. So all of my experience through law school, like clerking, interning, it was all in the criminal bar. I worked for a criminal defense law firm. I worked for a criminal defense or a criminal a preliminary hearing judge. And then I worked for a circuit judge, and they kind of rotate, and she was on her criminal kind of docket. Yeah. So I mean, that was kind of my jam. And then once I got out and started practicing, I was exposed, and what's funny is I hated contracts in law school, but I did, that was one of the areas where I excelled. So when I started practicing, I got exposure. I did kind of everything. I did criminal defense, family law, probate, drafting wills. I did what do they call it? Employment hearings I represented Wells Fargo on unemployment appeals. I mean, just basically anything to pay the bills because I was in private practice. And so I got tired of being, I was so new, but also I was learning how to practice law, but also learning how to reconcile my trust account and
run a business, the banking, do the marketing. It's a whole new world doing your own private practice at first, like coming out of law school. And I feel like a lot of people do cast the wide net at first, and then you find their little niche area. So what is it that you love to practice now? Like, what is your bread and butter that you would jam and you would like to spread it on? What would?
Yeah. So right now at my age, like I
come on, Tim, don't say at my age. We're still young.
I'm an old man. No, literally age was a factor. It was the work-life balance that I was looking for, because I do know people that have worked or that do work with large firms, and even in private practice, there are a lot of expectations and there's a need that you have to make ends meet, support your family, also be successful. And at this age, having gone back to law school, doing it at a later age, I don't have that. I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And so I'm not going to work 15-hour days. I'm not, so I found this situation.
It is like the firm people, it's a slog. They're constantly dealing with their billables. Yeah. So what was it that you found that helped you with
at Georgia Tech? Georgia Tech had an opportunity, and I moved to Atlanta to explore some opportunities. And this was one that just kind of fell in my lap. I met somebody. Every job I've ever had has always been through meeting someone, or knowing someone. I've never cold called, applied through LinkedIn or anything like that.
It's all about who you know.
Always.
All about it. Yeah.
Some people, if you went to a top tier law school and you were top graduate and clerked for a Supreme Court justice, all of that, your resume kind of speaks for itself. But for me, it was my connections are very valuable. So I met someone who worked at Georgia Tech, and they said, hey, we're hiring lawyers, and we're starting this NDA office where in our research administration, and we have all of our NDAs are being handled in legal affairs. We're trying to move them over to research administration because so basically whenever a faculty member and a sponsor begin discussing potential research projects, there's a lot of intellectual property that's involved.
So they'll ask for a non-disclosure agreement so that this person won't leave and go out and be their competitor.
Right. So they were like, we're trying to start this new office that only handles non-disclosure agreements. And so I started as kind of a temporary thing, thinking, okay, I'll give this a shot. And I've been here almost 5 years now, and now I do full-on research administration and so I negotiate contracts. So it's more than just NDAs now, but I negotiate contracts between Georgia Tech and our research sponsors. So sometimes it's a federal government.
Be in contracts, but now you are.
No.
Yes.
No. I love it though. I absolutely.
Are you a Georgia Tech employee?
Mm-hmm.
So you get all the
Yeah.
benefits and all that. Oh, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
That's like the best part.
Yeah.
So I'm not having to like hustle and like
Mhm.
do all the billable hours and all of that. And there's a peace of mind that comes with it.
That's nice. That's a nice relief, you know? And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of the pressure off. Like you have all of your benefits. And that's like the best part of it is you get all these benefits and you don't have to stress about that anymore, you know?
Yeah. That's definitely worth it.
Next
It's
you're going
worth
to
it.
be a professor. Just watch. No.
Uh, yeah, no. I mean, that's one interesting thing about it is because, we went to Florida and I went to a small law school, but when you go to a big university, there's so many components that you're not aware of that
Yeah.
are going on because you're a student. That when you get really into the like the
Admin. I mean, you're in the
admin stuff,
administration. Yeah.
yeah,
And
we're
it's a
we're
very
like removed
prestigious
from the
institution. It's very, very
yeah.
prestigious.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate. I mean, I've had a lot of opportunities open up by just I've presented at conferences, and whenever they see that I'm at Georgia Tech, there's an immediate like respect for that. So it's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
I'm so proud of you. That's exciting. That's an exciting,
Yeah.
area to fall in. But again, it's all about who you know and just, it's not like you got
Absolutely.
out to work at a lab and to draft NDAs and,
Right.
but it fell in your lap.
Zero experience whatsoever. That's the funny thing about it is like a lot of my life has just taken a very unique twist because opportunities have happened and traditionally like you just wouldn't expect. I mean, you just don't apply for a job at an institution like that with zero experience and get hired to start a pilot program. But for whatever reason, that's the planets aligned, and that's kind of how it works. So,
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was so weird. I mean, I was like the same exact way as you were, and coming out of law school saying, I'm going to go into criminal law. I'm going to be in criminal defense. I got this fancy internship at Pamela Mackey's office, and she's the one that defended Kobe Bryant in his Colorado case. So, so I did that for a little bit. And then again, I clerked for judges, just the same as you did. And I loved criminal law. I mean, that was my thing. I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I was also looking in the entertainment realm because I still missed that kind of entertainment component. I had worked in cable television out of school at Florida. And then I worked, so I worked for MTV, Nickelodeon, and then I went to Sundance Film Festival. So I had these kind of fun entertainment jobs. Then I went into law school and it got really boring really fast,
Yeah.
So I missed that thing. And so I ended up trying to find whatever we had entertainment wise in Colorado. There's not very much out here. Yeah. And so I found the division of gaming. So it was regulating the casinos in town. And I thought,
I remember that.
Kind of sexy still,
Yeah.
So that was fun. So I did that. That was my first internship that got me my job, really, because I interned for the Attorney General who was in charge of gaming and regulating gaming. And then from there, I got my first job, and it was like admin, courts, traffic violations. And, it was my first job. So I was kind of slogging through.
I remember you were doing that when I was in law school, because when I first started, I remember we talked. And
we did talk because you had called me because you were going to go into law school. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you working for the Department of, or the gaming commission. Was it gaming commission?
Yeah. Gaming commission, basically. And so, and so then I did Department of Revenue, and I worked for them for years. And then I went into regulating horse racing, which again is it fell into my lap. It was such a niche area of the law. How many horse racing attorneys do you know? There's not many of us.
Like never have I ever heard that.
Like none. But I did that, and I felt like it was really worthwhile because you would be so surprised at the animal abuse that goes on in that industry.
Oh my God, I'm sure.
And it was the same. The people who tested our horses when I worked at Department of Revenue and was working in horse racing at our same lab. Also, the Iditarod sled dogs from Alaska were tested there. So, and then we also had athletes being tested. So that was really an interesting particular area of the law, which was regulation of drug testing for athletes. And I think the horses are athletes. I mean, their muscles they're just amazing.
Yeah.
So I could have crossed over into human athletic testing, but I didn't end up doing that. My boss at the time had told me, you can go ahead and start your own private practice on the side if you want, as long as it doesn't conflict. And so dealing with criminals, it's not going to really conflict with estate planning, because they're all very nice clients who are responsible and well-meaning. And so I started doing this estate planning practice on the side. And what happened was it started just friends of friends, neighbors, and then it was all word of mouth. And then I started doing better in my private practice than I was in my day job for the government. And at that point, my husband said, listen, if not now, then when? Just make the switch, I mean, you're spending more time during the day doing all this government work and not getting paid for it very much. And then your bread and butter is really coming at night. So at nights and weekends. So I went full board, and I love my practice now. And I never would have thought, I got away from the entertainment side of things. I would have never thought that I would really enjoy drafting wills and trusts. But, I think the thing that I really like about it is my clients. They're all really good people, well-meaning, and, they have their family's best interests at heart, which I think is refreshing in the law.
Yeah. One of my mentors in law school, he had a very successful estate planning practice, and I really learned a lot from him, and gained a big appreciation for that area of the law, and just the impact that it has on people's families, and just having that peace of mind. No pun intended.
No, but that's exactly why I named my podcast this, because that's what it really is, Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this personally, do you have your own will set up and your trusts and all?
I do.
Did you do it yourself, or did you hire someone to do it?
Kind of both. So I went to South Africa about 3 years ago on a mission trip. And for some reason, I just felt, whenever you're doing something like that, all these things all of these things start coming into your mind, like vaccines and, having everything.
It's a lot when you start taking your malaria pills and then they're giving you, because I've been there too. It's amazing, isn't it? South Africa, it's just amazing.
It's phenomenal. But so I just thought, well, I don't know what can happen. It is a very far away from everything that I'm familiar with. So let me just go ahead and make sure that I have everything taken care of. And the nice thing is, my mentor actually, as a gift for graduation, or for passing the bar, he got me, or he actually did a simple will for me. And so really a lot of it was just modifying it.
Yeah.
But that was in South Carolina. So now that I'm in Georgia, I had to do some things that were a little bit different when it came to the powers of attorney and just some of the formalities. But I mean, for the most part, I don't have some vast estate, so it wasn't very complex. But
just the basic will, power of attorney, those kind of documents. Yeah.
So I just had to make sure that it was all up to date, and because what's interesting too is I was watching. Have you ever seen the show Downton Abbey?
Yes, I love it. It's
one of my favorites. So there's an episode where Matthew Crawley, after he got in his car accident and the new season started, there were issues about a will, and he had written a letter to his widow and saying, at the time he was saying, I'm going back home. And if anything should happen to me, this is what I want. And I feel silly that I'm a lawyer and I don't have a will. And for some reason that resonated with me. And I was like, okay, I'm a lawyer. I really, really need to make sure that I have this in case something happens.
Just in case. And in our state, I don't know about in Georgia, but even if I take a pen and paper and I write out, this is my last will and testament. Okay. I say what I want to say, who gets what, I date it and I sign it. It's a will. It's a valid will here in Colorado.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So, I think that was my very first will that I drafted for myself. I was in my wills clinic at school and I thought, wow, I'm going to go ahead and do a will for myself right here. You can also, in Colorado, we can record something on a recording device, and that's considered a holographic will. So that's another way to
Oh,
do
wow.
a quick will job that's free, that doesn't cost anything. Now, again, those sometimes end up having to go to probate because you might write down something and it's not entirely the right way to do it. It's not correct. I mean, the best way to do it is to hire an attorney and have them draft it for you. But I mean, those things work if it's a last minute deathbed situation, or if I'm flying out of the country tomorrow and I don't have things in order, that's a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing that we have that I think is really important is we have an advance directive, which is also known as a living will. And Tim, you might remember that Terry Schiavo case from back, that was Florida, right?
Yep.
She was on her deathbed and she had her ex-husband there with her and her mother, and her ex-husband said, pull the plug. And mom said, no, keep her plugged in. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court. I mean, that was a big situation. And so I think living wills are also a really good thing. In Colorado, it's just a statutory form. And you can say whether you want life support or not, or for how many days. That's, I think that's one that people don't really think could happen, but especially with this whole COVID thing going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh
the
my
life
gosh.
support implications of COVID. Isn't it crazy? This
it's
COVID time?
pretty insane how things like this happen, and suddenly all of the little intricacies of life that we take for granted or we just really don't ever really think about suddenly come to the surface, and we're faced with like really tough decisions, really I don't know, emotionally just emotionally trying conflicts, or what do people going to the hospital and not being able to be, you can't see your loved ones before they die.
Right. Oh, that's so heart-wrenching to me. And just the whole nursing home situation is very heart-wrenching to me, because there's a lot of older people who think of, if we're depressed or if we're feeling a little bit down, they can't see anyone. They're so socially isolated. They're literally in their rooms and people are just bringing them food. That's it. I mean, what have you been doing as far as, I know this is totally off topic, but I'm curious, like mental health in the gym, because you're a big gym guy. I mean, I just know that from you're so buff now, but you've always been into fitness. Are you going to the gym now? Are you able to get back in? And
yeah, the gyms in Georgia have opened up, and there, it's interesting. The big chain, the corporate gyms like Crunch and LA Fitness and those types of gyms, they're all a lot more relaxed. It's the local like boutique gyms that are, I guess I would have assumed that those types of gyms take more liberties or are a little more relaxed, but they're actually a lot more strict. And so
which is just the opposite of what you would think because of litigious people.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a lot of the the expense of the expenses that are involved with, disinfecting and providing certain things, and certain like spray bottles, and the chemicals that you have to use to make the disinfectant, all of those things that it's an expense. And so for a small business, that you would think that would be kind of cost prohibitive, but they're vigilant, and I actually prefer going to the smaller gyms because I know that there's a strict mask rule, and it's unfortunate because it is a little bit constricting, but it's the time that we're in right now. And so if
it is what it is, and so many people are saying that it is what it is, I mean, we just have to kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Thank God we bought a Peloton right before all this went down, and just coincidentally, and that it's really gotten me through this whole social
Absolutely.
isolation thing. At least I can go down there and get on that and get my workout in and feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we have to do right now is just try to cope and get through it and do as best as we can. And,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So, how is your family? I mean, is it,
It's so interesting. I feel like so I have a teenager. She's a senior this year. Can you imagine your senior year not getting to go to school? Like,
wow.
it was just so hard. She got her prom dress last year, and that's a big deal. And she didn't even get to go to prom, and she tried it on and tears, and it's just kind of a bummer. But I think for her, she got a job, so at least she has some social outlet now. And so she looks forward to going to her job, and since she's just doing everything virtually at home, she has a little bit more flexibility with her hours when she can go to work. So
Yeah.
that's the bright side. And then my 10-year-old, he's just so resilient. That kid's like, they have to study from home. So he's got his little desk and he gets on, and it's surprising. He's actually like coping with it and his little friends, But I think for them, it's just getting the boys outside to play, getting his own little group of friends out. They're playing flag football, which supposedly is starting on Sunday. So we'll see. But that'll be his bright side, Yeah. And then the husband and I are just working from home. So it's like everyone's here working from home.
Yeah.
But my office is back open, which is good.
Yeah, that's good.
I will go in there to meet with clients. We're all wearing masks, and my secretaries will spray everything off. And that's been the good thing is people are ready to get out of the house right now, and they're fine. For the most part, most of my clients are fine with masks on and hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Everybody's just kind of getting used to it. What about you guys? How's everything going with you?
Yeah, good. It's a university, so it's run like a business. And so there's constant communication, letting us know, there's that. And that's one nice thing about being part of or working for an organization like that is that there's so many things at work that,
right.
that there's really, there's like nothing, there's no stone left unturned. So we have constant communication,
the kids are back at school, right? Fully.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, it's funny. I don't know because, and here's why. It's because what I do, we're kind of on the fringe of, research doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And it's not very, it's not very involved, or like the academic part of the university we're not really involved with that at all. So when it comes to a semester and dorms and enrollment and orientation, it doesn't affect us. We're year round.
You're like a wheel that keeps on turning.
Yeah.
So, are you on campus, or are you working from home, or do you have to go back?
Yeah, no, I'm working from home, and it looks like we're probably going to be working from home until, at least January. Mm-hmm. And so at first it was September, and then it was October, and now it's indefinitely. And it's always a moving target because different, depending on the situation. So
but I'm sure you're just like me. I've kind of gotten comfortable in this whole. I don't have to drive anywhere. No. I very rarely go out. I'll go to my office. You'll go to your gym. It's just kind of like, those are like the pieces of joy that I get is going for a nice hike or something, getting out a little bit, but yeah. And then I loved all the pictures that you posted of your little dog.
Oh my God, Charlie. He's asleep right now. He's 16. I've had him since he was 2.
He's so cute.
And he was with me through law school. He was with me through the bar. He's been with me through so much, and he's with me through this now, and we're just kind of hanging out like the good old days.
Yeah. Oh, he's so cute. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Tim. It was a pleasure to get to chat with you and just catch up. And
sure.
I think if the main thing that anyone can take from this podcast, I think it's especially helpful for maybe students who are in law school, who are trying to figure out that broad net that they're casting and kind of what they want to do. And like both you and I have had careers that have led us to fall into different areas of the law that we ever thought that we would be in. So
Well,
Cast
that's a
that
good point.
broad net with studying is like my best advice that I could give to
Oh, for
somebody, because
sure.
you never know what tiny nuanced area that you're going to end up specializing in. And
Yeah.
it's, and your law career is like an evolution, like anything, you know, you're going to learn different new areas, and that's what's fun about it.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean, you just never know in life where it's going to take you. And I can tell you, if I had known I was going to go to law school, I would have probably tried a lot harder in undergrad to make sure that my grades were what they needed to be. And, but I also was fixated on one aspect of law. And my mentor, Tom, who the estate planner, he told me, he said, the market's going to dictate a lot of what you wind up doing,
it's
but
so true.
also you're just don't get fixated. I know you like criminal defense, but he's like, if that may not be where you wind up, so just kind of keep an open mind.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I did, because I really love what I do. And in fact, if I had to, if not, if one of my friends came to me and said, "Hey, I got in some trouble, I need a lawyer," I would help them, but I would refer them to someone. Like
Yeah.
if I don't know that I ever want to go back into
Yeah.
into jails and meet with clients through like a glass window and like
Yeah.
get
Been there, done
big
that,
stuff like
right? You know,
drugs.
I've been to death row.
Yeah,
We've been there, done that, right? But
yeah,
I think the other thing that I would take away from this is, and you mentioned this, is work-life balance. It's so important to do that work-life balance. In your 20s, in your young 20s, you might be a little bit more gung-ho. A firm job might be your speed. But then when you get to your 40s, you want to find an area of the law that you really do love. There's so many unhappy lawyers, and life is too short. You know,
yeah.
we've got to find those areas that we love. So I'm so happy to hear that you're doing great at Georgia Tech, and it was so great to catch up with you and to see you today,
Yeah.
Tim.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. Don't be a stranger. In fact, the number that I had for you before, I don't know what number it was, but I was texting you because I was like, oh wow, this is one person that I've had her same number for like all of these years, but apparently it was different.
It was a different number, but yeah, I mean, I just always think really fondly of you, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on and spend some time chatting with me today. And hopefully
Yeah.
anything that we give, I don't know how, exciting it is, but hopefully we're able to impart some wisdom on some young attorneys who are thinking about what areas of the law they might be interested in, and
Yeah.
take some advice from us of, listen, life is an evolution, but so is the law. So
Who knew that Bikers Bash would have had such a lasting impact?
oh, who knew? All of our fun times in college. Listen, we fully dressed up like bikers. Like, I think I had a fake tattoo on my arm. We wore leather. So fun.
Good time.
Okay. So nice to see you, Tim.
You too.
Thanks. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.